What you're looking at here is an aerial image of Kirk Hammerton, a small village just 10 kilometres west of York. A typical rural English village. But do you want to see something really weird? What you're looking at here is some LiDAR data, which basically shows the shape of the village. You can see the railroad here, an Anglo-Saxon era church here, and some field systems here. All pretty normal. But let's go a step further and strip away those buildings. Do you see what I see? Well, I'd be surprised if you didn't, because hidden under Kirk Hammerton is this massive circular earthwork, with a prominent mound on its southern edge. A site that has all the hallmarks of a Stone Age style of enclosure, thought to date back at least 5,000 years ago. So, who found it? What is it? And what do we do next? We can check off at least one of those questions right away. Tony Hunt found it. That is, Tony Hunt of Yorkshire Aerial Archaeological Mapping, or YAA. A fantastic aerial archaeology venture started in 2012. Tony has photographed and mapped many of the sites featured on this YouTube channel, and has some of the best photos of Yorkshire's henges. Together with the community archaeologist John Kenny, they've put together all the work featured in this video. Credit must also go to the great Phil Barret, who created this amazing little animation that reminded me that this thing even existed. The second question, what is it? Well, that's far more complicated. On paper anyway, because to my keen and rather optimistic eye, this can only really be one thing. A henge. A style of ceremonial enclosure unique to mid to late Neolithic Britain, so between 3200 and 2000 BC. Such enclosures have an outer embankment and an inner ditch, with one or two causewayed entrances leading to a central stage-like platform. This would be the newest discovery of a henge in the Vale of York and Mowbray, where an unusually high number of these mysterious enclosures have been identified. The most famous of these are the Thornborough henges, a chain of 3 massive henges 30 kilometres to the north. I do have a big YouTube video on these if you're interested, so better to go and watch them rather than me repeat myself here. Now, to me, the most striking thing of all at Kirk Hammerton is not necessarily the henge, but this large mound, built into its southern embankment. On top of this mound now stands an Anglo-Saxon church, a long-standing building that may have helped preserve a portion of the henge's embankment throughout the medieval, post-medieval and modern eras. The surviving section of bank rises to an estimated 5 metres, or 16 feet, in height, which could represent the remains of the original entrance portal into the henge. Why exactly Anglo-Saxons would build their church on such a feature is unknown, but there are other examples of henges being reused like this, such as the more famous Knowlton henge. Hello! You meet me here, in Kirk Hammerton, where I've been before if you've watched my video on the Anglo-Saxons. You see that? Do you remember my horrible camera work on that episode? Yes, if you've seen my video on the Anglo-Saxons, or people being offended by the Anglo-Saxons anyway, you'll know that I've been in this church before. There's the nice Saxon wall. Really interestingly, this church, it seems to be sat on a mound, which just juts up out of the landscape out of nowhere. If you know anything about henges, you know that the entrance portals into them quite often are flanked by 2 raised mounds, and it would appear that this is one of them. Really fascinatingly, I was talking to a woman whose property sits right at the centre of the supposed henge here, and she was telling me that when they were renovating this church back in the Victorian era, they found a necklace, a bone necklace that appeared to come from the late Neolithic. It made me think that maybe the mound that this church sits on is actually a burial mound. Ooh, piano. The suggestion that prehistoric artefacts were once buried in this mound suggests secondary burials were occurring here, i.e. people were being buried in an already existing feature during prehistory, so this mound must be from at least then. I got a lot of comments on my last video saying that I should take my hat off when I'm in a church. Well, I'm here at York Minster and everyone's wearing hats, even her. You have to remember, here in the UK, we went through a Reformation. We're a Protestant country, and that means we can worship God with hats on or hats off. Don't let anyone tell you how you can worship your God. The enclosure occupies a position within a broader Neolithic landscape, lying only 10 kilometres north of a henge at Tadcaster, 4.5 kilometres northwest of a henge at Sugar Hill, 12 kilometres southeast of a super henge at Langthorpe and the Devil's Arrow Standing Stones, and 30 kilometres southeast of Thornborough. So Kirk Hammerton isn't by any means isolated, and it's the kind of place you'd expect this. Other henges here include, in no particular order, West Tanfield, Cannabarn, Hutton Moor, Cinderby, and Nunnock, which all belong to a unique style of henge known as Class 2A, where the henges have two entrances opposite one another, with a thin ditch around the outside of the embankment. These are only found here in the Vales of York and Mowbray, and they're absolutely massive. Interestingly, Kirk Hammerton crowns the southeastern edge of a low spur of uplands which stretches between the Devil's Arrows in the north and Kirk Hammerton in the south, a ridge that effectively ties together the river systems of the Ure and Nid. This vantage point may not have been chosen by chance, but rather it reflects a deliberate placement of ritual architecture in a commanding location. I'm personally struck by the similarity between this and the Stonehenge and Avebury landscapes, where the avenues were similarly leading down to a river from one monumental structure to another. Kirk Hammerton really is sort of a quintessential rural English village. And over there is sort of, I don't know, I can imagine retiring over there. Especially because those buildings right there potentially sit on the banks of a henge. Now, I want you to follow my finger. This road, around. The houses right there basically follow the banks of the henge. Now, this gets very subtle, so I want you to just try and imagine this. Do you see this green? Can you see it subtly slopes upwards towards that corner? Well, that corner is the edge of the embankment, allegedly. I'll show you on some LiDAR so you can picture it yourselves. This is the more denuded, damaged area of the potential henge, and well, it shows. And what it shows is that LiDAR really is a magical tool for finding these things. Because if I was to come here without knowing the LiDAR, without having looked at it, I would have no idea that anything sat under this little green. As of last year, archaeological investigations have begun to probe the site directly. In late 2024, an excavation targeted the northern arc of the henge. Out of respect for the team involved, I won't be divulging anything prior to their publication, but I'll be sure to update you when they do. Kirk Hammerton local Nova Lee was nice enough to give me a little tour of her side of the henge and show me some of the details of the dig, which I'm extremely grateful for, as I'm now obsessed with the site. Additionally, the farmer on the other side of the fence was nice enough to let me stick my nose in, though he took some convincing and it's not somewhere you should be snooping around, so if you're interested in this, do not trespass. And that's it. We don't really know enough about the site to say anything for certain, so for now, we'll just have to wait and see. Who knows, maybe if you all like this video, to give it a boost, more people will come to learn about this incredible site. And maybe, just maybe, we can attract even more study to not just this possible henge, but the dozens of others in the surrounding landscape. I have been Adam Morgan Ibbotson, and I love henges. So subscribe, like the video, please do like the video, it makes a huge difference in the algorithm. More people can learn about this. And yeah, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. And watch my last video as well, because no one watched it. Something goes weird with my YouTube sometimes, where I'll get 300,000 views one week and then 2,000 the next. I've got a weird channel. It's all over the place. So yeah, anyway, have a nice weekend.